When I was 6 years old, I woke up on Christmas morning to find a guitar waiting for me under the tree. And I'm not talking about a toy. It was a carefully crafted instrument. It wasn't too expensive, but it also wasn't cheap. And so to some degree, you have to wonder, what were my parents thinking in giving me a gift like that at that age? I mean, 6-year-old boys are not known for handling things with care. It could have ended up being used as a ramp for Hot Wheels cars or a baseball bat or all those sorts of things. Obviously, that's not what it was designed for. Could have gotten scratched, could have gotten warped, or even shattered. With help, I learned how to hold it, how to tune it, how to play it, so that I continue to enjoy it today. But I think that something similar can happen with God's law. We may not think of it this way, but he gave it to his people as a precious gift. It was designed to help them enjoy the blessing of knowing him and walking with him in righteousness. And so you hear that idea in Deuteronomy chapter 4, verses 7 through 8. There Moses says, as he speaks to the people of Israel, "What great nation is there that has a God so near to it as the Lord our God is to us whenever we call upon him? And what great nation is there that has statutes and rules so righteous as all this law that I set before you today?" But here's the thing. When it comes to God's law, it can be misused. And when that happens, it's not the law that gets damaged. People's understanding of righteousness can become warped. And if it does, I think that can hinder someone from having a relationship with God. It can interfere rather than help. And so when Jesus came, he confronted those kinds of distortions. He taught people about how to think about the law properly. And I think that is the purpose in the Sermon on the Mount. Now, the sermon is central to Matthew's gospel. He presents Jesus as the promised Messiah of the Old Testament. And he builds his book around 5 major discourses that Jesus delivers. So the Sermon on the Mount is the first one. And so if you read through Matthew 1 through 4, you see that it really sets the stage for that. When I preached through that part of the book a few years ago, I called my series Messiah's Dawn, because it's just such a dark time. And you see the opposition that Jesus faced at his birth from King Herod, trying to kill all the children around Bethlehem, the infants. And so Jesus begins his ministry in this dark time, but he brings hope. It's like the sunrise. And the Sermon on the Mount begins with a declaration of that hope. It's a passage we call the Beatitudes, and that word's drawn from Latin. It really just means blessings. These are blessing statements. And we worked through those too a few years ago in a series I called Messiah's Blessing. Because it's really not separate blessings. It's all talking about the same blessing. Now, at the time, I intended to just take a short break from Matthew to focus on other portions of Scripture, but that short detour has turned into 3 years. Now, almost 3 years, we've gone through the epistles of Peter and the whole book of Acts. And so I thought it would finally be good to get back to Matthew today. And we'll review those Beatitudes, but we'll also continue through Matthew 5 in a series that I'm going to call Messiah's Righteousness. And so we start with the first 16 verses. And we could sum them up as 3 reasons to be righteous. God's law is not just a set of rules. Jesus makes it clear here that they address the heart. And so we have to see that our motivation matters. And so if you seek to obey the Lord, if you're following Jesus, then I challenge you today to ask yourself, why? Why do I obey? Do my reasons align with what Jesus is talking about here? If not, then I need to make a change. And even if maybe you hear this message, maybe you're not here, maybe someone listening online somewhere down the road, and you resist obeying the Lord, and you don't want to do that, I think it might be that impulse is in part a reaction to someone's distorted reasons for righteousness. Sometimes we encounter that out there, and it just leaves such a bitter taste in our mouth that we don't want anything to do with it. And so we have to understand the truth. Right? You need to hear the truth, and I invite you to come with an open mind as we consider the teaching of Jesus. Now, I think that each one of these reasons that Jesus gives stands in opposition to one of those false ways of thinking about righteousness. And that things that were common at the time. In fact, there were even different groups that formed around each one. And so we'll identify those. But we also need to recognize that these ideas, these wrong ideas about righteousness, are alive and active today. And still causing division among people. And so the first reason may be the one that's most often misunderstood. And it's that the reason to be righteous is not accomplishment, but dependence.